This is in a third world country. When I was a small boy, I used to see poor street kids outside. They wore rags, were often hungry, dirty. They were paupers, illiterate, and uneducated. I'm not sure whether they had parents. Most didn't. Some would have their limbs broken by unscrupulous people, so they could elicit more sympathy as they begged for money. A truly heart-wrenching sight. They would often sift through the rubbish for their food. It was very sad seeing this, even when I was a young boy, seeing that they weren't that different from me. But there was this one poor girl. Her parents must have died or something, for I would often see her going from house to house, begging for food. Sometimes people would throw scraps of food out for the dogs, and I would often see her eating those scraps with them. Like the others, her clothing barely sufficed to hide her nakedness. It would do for the summer, but in the winter, she would struggle. And so, winter came. I recall me starting school, and me feeling sorry for her that she didn't go. It was an especially cold night, one where it snowed. The temperature must have been below zero for sure. I recall her knocking on the door, banging, pleading for someone to let her in. My mother answered the door and scolded her, telling her to go away. These street kids were treated worse than those slum dogs. The door was slammed. She was still outside, knocking, pleading for some respite from the bitter wind, but to no avail. The night passed as normal. I dressed to go to school the next day. It snowed all night. Everything was white outside, glistening in the sun. Outside, I saw a strange lump of snow just near the doorstep. It was as if somebody left some rocks there overnight. I uncovered the snow, curious to see what was underneath, when suddenly I recoiled back in horror. It was the poor child, frozen solid in the snow. She died outside our very doorstep, in the cold. I was shocked, and my heart welled up with guilt and pity for her. Why didn't my poor old mother let her in? Why didn't I let her in? Surely if I asked my mother, she would have taken care of that poor orphaned child. I hope she's gone off to a much better place, away from cruel and unsympathetic people like me. She has been etched in my memory ever since. A truly heartbreaking moment. The guilt never ever goes away. She was my age, perhaps 4 or 5, R.I.P.